Megidramon has become a surprise hit in the BT21 meta, but how is that? As far as I remember, Megidramon has always been a joke deck at best, so how did this, or this become this? The short answer? You don't need any of those old cards, it's all the new stuff. But if you want to find out why it's become like this, stay tuned and find out as we dive into how Megidramon went from being mid-Gidramon to a very competent meta deck. Let's start back at the beginning. In BT5, we were introduced to our first version of Megidramon, a purple Digimon that digivolved from both purple and red, and had a one digivolving effect to trash the top 5 cards of both players' decks. It was just almost pseudo living on the edge of trashing your opponent's deck and your own, but hoping your opponent deck out first. It also had a very strong on-deletion effect for the time, allowing you to play a level 6 Gallantmon named Digimon for free from your hand or trash if you had a tamer out, which for the time was insane. But this is kind of the bare bones of what will make Megidramon in BT21 so strong. Our next Megidramon would be a massive evolution from the BT5 one, being our EX2 SR Red and Purple Megidramon, which was an improvement on several fronts. Now it was counted as Chaos Gallantmon in name, which meant that it could work with all the existing Tocado tamers as those checked for Gallantmon in name, and it had a new one digivolving effect to delete something with 10k or less, and if nothing was deleted, then it would trash the top 5 cards of both players' decks. So you got the old effect as a caveat. And this one had a new on-deletion effect, allowing you to play out a Gallantmon and a Tocado from your hand or trash without paying the cost. Which, while not being a free level 6, getting a Tamer and Digimon out for free was pretty good for the time, but never enough to be like meta-defining. Our last Megidramon was found in EX3, which is a set that had a lot of issues, including the deck that this Megidramon was meant for, the 4 Great Dragons. That deck was bad. This Megidramon, also kind of bad. Really cool alt art, but terrible card, as it didn't have any synergy with the existing Megidramon support. It was purely just for the 4 Great Dragons deck. That being said though, the level 3, 4, and 5 that are found in this set, all really good, and worked pretty well for that self-mill strategy that Megidramon was starting to become known for. After this, Bandai would kind of chill out on Megidramon, putting the deck into hibernation. Yes, it did get support in EX4 in the form of the support for Chaos Gallantmon, but it wasn't really focused on anything else besides self-milling, and really floating into that Chaos Gallantmon. We did also get the promo Ace Megidramon, but in my opinion, that one was more support for the Gallantmon stuff if anything. And now we kind of have this weird spot, where Megidramon kind of sits in between both Gallantmon with the DP deletion based effects, and Beelzemon with the self-milling. And of course there's also Megidramon, which is kind of doing its own sort of hand discard stuff. And then there's also Chaos Gallantmon, which works as sort of like pseudo support for it as well. So where was Bandai supposed to take the deck now? Which way would they choose? The answer is going to shock you, as they chose none of the 4 and went for an OTK deck instead. Now you're probably looking at this Megidramon and thinking, this has nothing to do with self-milling. Where's the, trash 5 cards on Digivolve? Well, you don't really need it, as self-milling is kind of out. At least in Megidramon's case, most of the support cards do still self-mill. And you're not really trashing your opponent's deck either because of, well, this guy. Thanks to Pokemon, very cool. But really, I don't think you need it, as this will check for 2 security on its own, and then end of the attack, it'll delete itself and everything else on the field. And then on deletion, it'll play out a body. So typically with the old Megidramons, you'd have to hope your opponent deleted you, or that you die in a security battle, but now it'll just do it on its own. So the card will trigger its own on-deletion effect, just like how Necromon works. And since the deck now works on self-trashing, you'll be basically milling yourself out in order to play out high-level bodies with that on-deletion effect. But Megidramon's only really good thanks to this War Realmon, which has a very strong when attacking effect to digivolve into a Megidramon or Chaos Gallantmon named Digimon from the hand, and for every 10 cards in both players' trash, you reduce the evolution cost by 1. Which means if there's 40 cards in both players' trash combined, you can digivolve into Megidramon for free. The other effect is being on play when digivolving, allowing you to trash 2 cards and then give this Raid Retaliation for the end of your opponent's turn. Which is a very popular combination. Thanks Raid Raptor, you were really the pioneer of your time. The Inheritable 2 is also really strong, allowing you to, on deletion, trash your opponent's top security. But what really holds this deck together are the Tamers, either the BT19 Tocado, which is a memory setter, and on your turn, when any of your Digimon with Gramon or Gallantmon digivolve, you may suspend this Tamer, and the Digimon gains Raid, and then it can attack. Basically, as long as you're able to attack, that's the most important part. Alternatively, you can run the EX2 Tocado, which is a 3-cost Tamer as opposed to a 4-cost memory setter. It has 2 effects. When one of your Gallantmon or Gramon named Digimon digivolve, it gains Blitz, and when any of your opponent's Digimon deleted, you can suspend the Tamer to gain a memory. The main combo for this deck is really Digivolve into your War Growlmon. You don't care if you pass memory or not because your Takados allow you to attack. When attacking, you then Digivolve into Megidramon. Megidramon will then check 2 security, and then it'll delete itself and everything else on the field, and then on deletion, it'll trash your opponent's top security. And then you'll float into another Digimon thanks to Megidramon's on deletion effect, which can be any number of powerful cards. Speaking of those powerful cards, Megidramon isn't just those 3 cards. There are tons of support cards that help make this deck run really well. Starting off with the egg, you have the new promo Gigimon, which is really good for letting you recur after your Megidramon dies. As for level 3s, there are tons really. Just name anything with Giyamon in name and that works. Mainly you can use stuff like the new BT21 Giyamon, which pitches 1 card to draw 2 and has an inheritable that has on deletion, gain a memory, which works great when your Megidramon stack dies, gain back memory there. As well as other cards like the EX4 Giyamon, which if you have 20 cards in trash between both you and your opponent, it comes out and gains Rush, which is great again when your Megidramon stack dies. You just play it out after that and then swing for that 1 final check. And then for your last one, it's kind of a dealer's choice really. It can be any other Giyamon. It could be Giyamon X for some more searching, or it could be the old BT12 Giyamon so that it has search for Takados. As for level 4s, you can run anything with, well, Growlmon in name. The new BT21 Growlmon is pretty solid as it has an on-play and a when digivolving effect, which means if you put up your Megidramon stack dying, it can have on-play to activate its effect to attempt to pop something, and if nothing is popped, you'll trash 2 of your own cards. With the inheritable, of course, to on deletion gain a memory, so combine that with the BT21 Giyamon, you can gain back 2 memory and potentially keep turn after Megidramon stack dies. The other great card to use is also the Growlmon X antibody, as if you have Growlmon underneath it, you'll be able to give your stack the effect of on deletion play out a Giyamon, so if you have that full stack with Megidramon out, you're going to play out 2 bodies off your 1, which is exactly what Necromon does, but again, it's not ghost themed, so it's not as cool. Outside of that, it's again a dealer's choice of Growlmons. You can either play the BT12 Growlmon to play out a Takado Tamer and give your Megidramon stack more of a DP buff, or you can always run the new BT19 Growlmon, which lets you play up to 2 Takado Tamers. Ooh. The only one I wouldn't recommend is the Black Growlmon, as that one doesn't work with the Growlmon X antibody, so oftentimes you want to have that full stack combo. It's not going to synergize really well. So if you're planning on running the Growlmon X antibody, don't run Black Growlmon. If you want to focus on a more deck discard version of the deck, then yeah, that works, but for the Unga Bunga OTK, no, don't do it. As for level 5s, obviously you're going to be running 4 copies of BT21 War Growlmon. It's the main star of the show and helps you enable that full OTK. But for the other level 5s, guess what? It's a dealer's choice. Yeah, that's just how the deck tends to work. There's a lot of flexibility, and just run anything with like Growlmon or War Growlmon in name for your other level 4s and 5s. It tends to work out pretty well. Man, if only this deck had some sort of protection. Oh wait, it does. You can always run the War Growlmon X from EX8, as that'll give the deck protection and an additional security check. Just the only thing is, you won't have that when attacking effect from the War Growlmon anymore. So it's always best to evolve in that in the back, and then the next turn Digivolve into Megidramon and then blitz or attack afterwards. Alternatively, you can always run the EX3 War Growlmon, as that one works pretty well. If you have cards in trash, you'll be able to play out a Takado or a Giyamon, which is never a bad thing. Outside of that, it also does trash more cards, which you can never say no to. It does suck that it doesn't have an inheritable, so it's not something I'd recommend highly, but as a filler level 5, it's not bad. My personal spicy pick? BT12 War Growlmon, as that has an effect of attempting to pop something. If it doesn't, you can evo into a Gallantmon named Digimon for cost -1. It is another way for you to go into your Megidramon. And then at the end of attack, if there's nothing else on the field for you to delete, you can resolve all your effects in turn, so the end of attack to delete everything from Megidramon and the end of attack from this will trigger at the exact same time, so you can always gain back to memory if there's nothing else to delete, and then Megidramon will delete everything. But I will say that doesn't come up a whole lot. Just be aware of that. As for level 6s, it's obviously BT21 Megidramon, but for your other level 6s, it's a dealer's choice. Woo! BT13 Gallantmon and Promo Gallantmon both serve the same purpose, as they can be played out for a reduction, and then you can either cover with the new one or just blitz out and swing for rush with BT13 Gallantmon. If you want to be funny, you can also run Megidramon Ace, but I don't think that's as good. But hey, your call, man. For Tamers, it's the 2 we just talked about, the BT19 and EX2. Both work really well for the deck, as they can both allow you to basically swing when memory gets passed over, and that's kind of the crux of the whole deck. The one I would not touch with a 10-yard pull is the BT21 Tocado, as why would I need blocker? That does nothing for me. This is an OTK deck. We're going all gas, we don't need no blockers. Oh, and for non-Tocado tamers, run 4 copies of Analog Youth, as it lets you search and add cards to your trash, and then when your Megidramon stack gets deleted, you're able to suspend it and gain back memory there, and hatch. So an all-around win-win. As for options, you can pick between Miss Memory Boost, which allows your trash cards into your trash, and the other option, the Digimon I designed, which is great mainly for that delay effect, allowing you to delete your Megidramon stack, play out a body, and then Digivolve it up, which works with your Rush Gearmon, allowing you to play out the Rush Gearmon, Digivolve into that, and then with the BT19 Tocado, swing with it. I will say this deck does have a couple of glaring issues, the biggest one being is if it gets deleted before your swing goes through, and if you have no protection. While yes, running War Growlmon X is fantastic for the deck, if you don't see it, you're basically swinging Megidramon and hoping for the best. So if you get ace timed, it's kind of all over. If you're playing against a deck that's immune to deletion effects, which is pretty common nowadays, then you're not really deleting the full board and your opponent just goes, well, you tried, and then can clap you back pretty hard. Another big issue I found with the deck is its lack of DP buffs, as if you're just swinging Megidramon, it's just 13k. That's why I personally like running the BT12 line, as it gives you that DP buff, bringing you up to at least 17 in the best case scenario. The last one's also kind of a personal issue, as I run the Purple Egg, the new promo Digimon, and I run all red trainings, because my Gallantmons are red, obviously. So there have been times where I open up 5 cards and no rookies, so I try to search with my red training, and I can't because all I have on the field is a Purple Egg. This can always be fixed by running the red Digimon instead. Personally, I think the promo Digimon is better, allowing you to grab back pieces, but that's just a quirk of my version of the deck. Now you're probably thinking, why should I build this deck? It's not getting any feature support. And to that, I'd probably say, well, it is technically a protagonist deck, which means whenever Gallantmon gets support, Megidramon will inadvertently get support. Same thing like Chaos Gallantmon, as with the EX4 line, that really was both support from Megidramon and Chaos Gallantmon. Not to mention, I can also see Megidramon getting support in BT22 with an X evolution, as typically whenever Bandai releases a decent amount of support for a card, like CX1 and BT20, it gets the X line in the following set as sort of like, you know, a little bit of extra. BT21 had X1X, so I can definitely see Megidramon X being in BT22 or even BT23. Definitely this deck will get more support. The question isn't if, but when. Anyways, here's my deck list. Everything we've talked about so far has been included in here. The only thing that I haven't mentioned is the structure deck Guillamon, as sometimes extra draw is very helpful, even though this deck searches a ton. Thank you for watching me talk about Megidramon. This was going to be a sauce or loss, but as you can probably tell, all these cards are, well, sauce. We live in a year where both Gallantmon and Megidramon are actually competitive, and not just joke decks. That is insane to me. If you liked the video, maybe consider liking and subscribing, but until next time, I've been Proninja, and we'll see you in the next one.